Over 2,000 years ago, a narrow mountain pass in Greece became the stage for one of the most iconic last stands in history, the Battle of Thermopylae. The story of the 300 Spartans, led by their king Leonidas, has echoed through time as a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and defiance against overwhelming odds. While popular culture, particularly films like 300, have turned this battle into a tale of mythic heroism, the true story is even more fascinating. It is a blend of historical fact, political intrigue, military strategy, and the spirit of a people who refuse to bow before tyranny. The events at Thermopylae occurred in 480 BCE during the Greco-Persian Wars, a series of conflicts between the mighty Persian Empire and the small independent Greek city-states. The Persian Empire under King Xerxes I was the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching from the Indus River in modern-day Pakistan to the shores of the Aegean Sea. Xerxes' father, Darius the Great, had already attempted to conquer Greece a decade earlier, but had been defeated at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE. Xerxes was determined to avenge that humiliation and to expand his empire further west. He amassed a massive army, estimated by ancient sources like Herodotus to be over 2 million men, though modern historians suggest a more realistic figure between 150,000 and 300,000. Still, this force dwarfed anything the Greeks could muster. The Greek world, though sharing language, religion, and culture, was not united. It consisted of dozens of city-states, or poli, each fiercely independent. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and Thebes were powerful in their own right, but they often quarreled. When the Persian threat became undeniable, a rare alliance formed, the Hellenic League, to resist the invasion. Sparta, known for its disciplined warrior society, took command of the land forces, while Athens provided the navy. The Greek strategy was simple yet brilliant. Use geography to neutralize the Persians' advantage in numbers. The pass of Thermopylae, Hot Gates, was chosen as the ideal defensive position. It was a narrow strip of land, between steep mountains and the sea, barely wide enough for a few chariots to pass side by side. Here, a small force could hold off a much larger army. The Spartans, the most feared warriors in Greece, would lead the defense, supported by allies from other city-states. King Leonidas of Sparta was chosen to command the Greek force. According to Spartan law, kings were not supposed to lead armies far from home without the approval of the council. But with the Persian threat looming, and the sacred festival of Carneia underway, during which military campaigns were forbidden, Leonidas took only a small advance guard, 300 of his best warriors. These were not ordinary soldiers. Each Spartan brought along a helot, servant, and was accompanied by several allies from other states, bringing the total Greek force to around 7,000 men. The Spartans' small number was not due to lack of concern, but rather due to their religious obligations and the belief that this mission would likely be suicidal. When Xerxes' massive army reached the pass, he expected the Greeks to flee. The sight of his grand host, soldiers, cavalry, war chariots, and even a fleet following along the coast, was meant to intimidate, but the Spartans stood their ground. Herodotus records that when Xerxes heard of the small Greek force opposing him, he mocked them and sent envoys demanding that they lay down their weapons. Leonidas's reply became legendary: "Molon labe," come and take them. The battle began in mid-August 480 BCE. For 2 days, the Greeks held their line against wave after wave of Persian attacks. The narrowness of the pass worked to their advantage, preventing the Persians from using their superior numbers effectively. The Spartans and their allies fought in a tight phalanx formation, shields locked together, spears thrusting through the gaps. The discipline, training, and physical endurance of the Spartans made them almost invincible in close combat. The Persians, though brave, were used to fighting in open spaces and were not equipped for such close-quarters battle. The first day saw the Medes and Scythians thrown back with heavy losses. The second day, Xerxes sent in his elite troops, the Immortals, but even they failed to break through the Greek line. The narrow terrain and the Spartans' iron discipline ensured that only a few Persians could fight at a time, nullifying their advantage in numbers. Herodotus writes that Xerxes, who watched the battle from his golden throne, leapt up 3 times in fear for his army. However, betrayal would turn the tide. A Greek named Ephialtes, seeking a reward, informed Xerxes of a hidden mountain path that bypassed the pass. This trail, known to locals, led behind the Greek lines. Xerxes seized the opportunity and sent a detachment of troops under General Hydarnes to outflank the defenders. When Leonidas learned of this betrayal, he realized that his position was hopeless. The Persian forces would soon surround them. Leonidas made a fateful decision. He dismissed most of the Greek contingents, allowing them to retreat and regroup. But he and his 300 Spartans, along with 700 Thespians and 400 Thebans, chose to stay and fight to the death. Their sacrifice would buy time for the rest of Greece to prepare for the defense of their homeland. On the final day, the Greeks fought with unmatched ferocity. Their spears broken, they fought with swords, hands, and even teeth, determined to sell their lives dearly. Leonidas himself fell in battle, and a fierce struggle erupted over his body. The Spartans retrieved it and continued to fight until they were overwhelmed by Persian arrows and swords. When the last Spartan fell, Thermopylae was lost, but the legend was born. The Persians marched on, burning Athens to the ground, but the Greek resistance did not end there. The sacrifice at Thermopylae inspired unity among the fractious Greek city-states. A few weeks later, at the naval Battle of Salamis, the Greek fleet, led by the Athenians, lured the Persian navy into a narrow strait and inflicted a devastating defeat. The following year, the Greeks won a decisive victory at Plataea, ending the Persian invasion. Thermopylae was a military defeat, but a moral triumph. The 300 Spartans and their allies had shown that courage, discipline, and love for freedom could stand against tyranny, even in the face of certain death. Their stand became a rallying cry for all of Greece, and later, for generations around the world who admired the ideals of bravery and sacrifice. Much of what we know about Thermopylae comes from the writings of Herodotus, often called the father of history. Though his accounts include exaggerations and mythic elements, they capture the spirit of the event. The number 300 has since become a symbol, representing the few who stand against the many, the defenders of liberty against oppression. The Spartan way of life itself was unique in the ancient world. From birth, Spartan males were trained to become soldiers. At age 7, they entered the agoge, a harsh military education system that emphasized discipline, endurance, and loyalty to the state. Weak or sickly infants were left to die, as Sparta sought only the strongest to serve. Spartans lived lives of austerity and obedience. Personal wealth or luxury was discouraged. Their society revolved entirely around warfare. To die in battle for Sparta was the highest honor. Leonidas himself embodied these ideals. He was not only a king, but a warrior trained from childhood for hardship and command. His decision to stay at Thermopylae was not an act of recklessness, but one of duty. both to his country and to the ideal of Spartan valor. He knew his stand would delay Xerxes and inspire the Greeks to resist. Modern historians have tried to separate the myth from the reality. The 300 Spartans were not alone. Thousands of Greeks fought beside them. The Persians were not mindless barbarians. They were part of a highly organized empire with advanced engineering, art, and administration. Yet the moral power of the story remains unchanged. It is the image of a small band of warriors standing firm against an empire that captures the imagination. Archaeological evidence at Thermopylae confirms many aspects of the story. The ancient pass was indeed narrow, though centuries of geological changes have widened it. Excavations have revealed Persian arrowheads and Greek weapon fragments, silent witnesses to the ferocity of the fighting. A simple stone monument now stands at the site, bearing the famous epitaph written by the poet Simonides. "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." The legacy of Thermopylae has endured through millennia. It has been retold in countless books, plays, and films. The modern fascination with the 300 Spartans, especially after the 2006 movie 300, directed by Zack Snyder, has reintroduced this ancient tale to new generations. Though stylized and dramatized, the film captures the essence of the Spartan spirit: defiance, honor, and unity in the face of impossible odds. Beyond entertainment, the story of Thermopylae continues to inspire soldiers, leaders, and ordinary people. It speaks to universal themes: the defense of freedom, the willingness to sacrifice for one's people, and the power of courage against tyranny. In times of war or crisis, the words "Remember Thermopylae" remind the world that valor and integrity can be stronger than any army. In the grand scope of history, the battle itself was small. A few thousand men fighting in a remote mountain pass. But its moral weight was immense. It changed how people thought about courage and patriotism. The Spartans' sacrifice helped preserve Greek independence, which in turn allowed the flourishing of democracy, philosophy, and art that shaped Western civilization. Without Thermopylae, the history of Greece, and perhaps of the world, might have been very different. The real story of the 300 Spartans is not simply about death or defeat. It is about the triumph of the human spirit. It reminds us that freedom often demands the highest price, and that courage can echo through centuries. King Leonidas and his men may have fallen on that hot August day, but their defiance became immortal. They stood not for conquest, but for the belief that some things are worth dying for: honor, liberty, and the right to live as free men. Even now, more than 2,000 years later, the legend of Thermopylae stands as a beacon of resistance against oppression. Whenever a small group faces impossible odds in defense of justice, their stand is compared to that of Leonidas and his 300 Spartans. The hot gates may have cooled, the stones may have shifted, but the spirit of Thermopylae remains eternal, an enduring testament to what it means to fight for something greater than oneself.